So let me go back and talk about class B address scope now. Let me clear this off. Okay. Um, let me go and talk about class B addresses. So for class B, that we have class B address range that we have. This is the range is between 128 all the way to 191. Okay. So we divided into two halves. So we know that we have got the address range into two halves. So the half looks like that. So basically we'll have network portion and a host portion. So this is basically your 16 bits in the network, and we'll have 16 bits in the host. So that's your network part, and that's your host part. Okay. So what are the possible combinations that we get? So let me take a pen and write it down now. So the combination that we get is this. So the value that we start for class B, it is 128. That means my first two octet. Let me take a different one. So my first two octet that we have, my first two octet, and the last two octet has got a special meaning over here. This is my first two octet of 8 bits. This is the last two octets of 8 bits with respect to class B. So these values are in the network part. Okay, and these values will be in the host part. All right, and so I've got 16 bits host and 16 bits network, right? So which is the value that I start with? I start with the value 128 in the first octet. Rest every values will be 0. So when I see the value of the first octet as 128, I can easily understand that okay, this is in the range of class B. Okay, so I should easily understand that okay, since it's in the range of class B, the first two octets is in the network part and the last two octets are in the host part. Now you know that if all the host bits are 0, so here all the 16 bits that I have are having binary values of 0, right? If all the host bits are 0, so it is called as a network address. Okay, and what is the first valid IP from this network? It is 128.0.0.1, right? This is your valid IP. The next valid IP will be 128.0.0.2. The next valid IP is 128.0.0.3. Like that will continue up to 128.0.0.255. Correct? Not yet over because we know that we have got two octets in the host, so we can actually go and use the third octet value as well for the host part, right? So after this value, the next valid IP that we have, it is 128.0.1.0. Same condition, same logic it will apply, right? This is also valid IP. Likewise, we'll have combination of this series, right? 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, like that. Then we'll increment to 2.3.4. So time will come, when I'll have a value which is 128.0.255.254. Correct? So this is, I can say, this is the last valid IP from this network, right? From 128.0.0.0 network. So from this network, this is the last valid IP. Okay, and what is the broadcast address? If all the host bits are high, that is called as a broadcast address. That means the value would be 128.0.255.255. This will be called as a network broadcast of this network. That's your broadcast address. All right. So what is the usable IP that we have got? So I've got a usable IP, which is, let me take a text over here and write it down. So basically I've got, the first value was 128.0.0.0. This is basically my network address. And then I've got 128.0.0.1 all the way to 128.0.255.254. They are my usable IP or the valid IPs that I can assign to a host or to a node. And then my broadcast address is 128.0.255.255. This is basically your broadcast address. All right. So the first value, network address, the last value, broadcast address, can't be assigned. In the middle, they're all my usable address. They can be assigned to the individual nodes. All right. So after the broadcast address, normally what we do, the next value that we get is a new network, right? So after this particular broadcast address, the immediate next value, whatever we get, there is a new network address. So let me write down that as well. So after this address exactly, so if I after this address exactly, I'll be getting a new address, which is basically, let me write down here itself, 128 dot, the next value will be 1, and I'll reset back to 0 and 0. This is basically a new network because you can see the values are changing. This is your first 2 octets, values are 128.0, and the value over here, it is 128.1. So I've got a different value in the network part. So it's a new network for me. And from this, I'll have a combination of the host values. So if the host bits are all 0, this is my network address. If the host bits are all 1s, that will be my broadcast address, right? And then in the middle, I'll have all the combinations of valid IPs. So for this, what is the answer that I get? Let me just clear it and write it down. For this value, the answer that I get, that is, the next is 128.1.0.0, right? This is your network address. So the usable IPs are 128.1.0.1 all the way to 128.1.255.254. They are my valid IPs or usable IPs, and 128.1.255.255. This is basically your broadcast address. Okay. Similarly, the next network address is basically what? 128.2.0.0, right? That is again same logic. Network address 128.2.0.1 all the way to 128.2.255.254. They are all your valid IP, and 128.2.255.255. This is your broadcast address. All right. So the idea is, network address. In the middle, we have got all the valid IPs. The last is broadcast address. After the broadcast address, the next value, whatever we get, it's a new network. Okay. So like this, you understand that I'll have, this, the second octet of class B will go till 255, and then I can increment this value to, the next number, that is 129, right? As we know, the range is between 128 to 191, right? So I'll have a bit more, lot of networks over here, right? So like that, with all the possible combinations, I can say the last network address of class B will be your 191.255.0.0, right? That will be the last network address of your class B. Okay. If somebody asks you that, what is the last valid IP of class B? So the answer would be 191.255.255.254, right? That is the last valid IP of your class B. All right. So I hope it is very much clear to everybody.